Hey Barefoot Adventurers, what's up? Cami here. Today's video is about my top 5 wild places to travel, but before I get to that, if you like these videos, remember to subscribe because I've got a lot more exciting stuff coming out soon. And feel free to leave your comments, give it a thumbs up, that's always great. I'd love to hear what you have to say. So anyways, top 5 wild places to travel to. I'm calling these places wild because they're not like your typical, like when you think of a relaxing vacation, this isn't like the Mediterranean coast of Italy kind of thing, which there's nothing wrong with relaxing vacations, don't get me wrong, like I am down with all of that as well, but these places could be considered a little bit more difficult to travel to, some of them could, but they're also very interesting, and I think there's a lot to be said for traveling somewhere, not necessarily for the comfort, even though that is nice sometimes, but really to get the experience and to see a place for the good parts and the not as good parts, and to see both of it together. And I feel like that's how you really get to know a place and get to learn a place and find that deeper connection with it. So anyways, these are 5 places I really want to go and that I think are really cool, so maybe you will too. Let's find out. Alright, place number 1, Brazil. Now Brazil has gotten a lot of attention lately with the Olympics and World Cup and all that, and I think it is one of the coolest places ever. A lot of people get a little bit stressed out about higher crime rates in the cities, and they do have a pretty significant wealth gap between rich and not so rich. But they're also, there's so many fascinating things about this country that I would love to explore. So number 1 is just the sheer natural beauty. It is naturally one of the wildest countries you can find. They have the Amazon rainforest, but then they also have the Pantanal wetlands, which is a lesser known area, at least for people in the US, I think. But it's really, really fascinating. It's like this wetland area that has a wet season and a dry season, but the biodiversity here is gigantic. For example, they have roughly 3,500 plant species. And just to put that in perspective, the Everglades in Florida has 164 native plant species. So that's like way, like above and beyond anything that you can find in one of the most biodiverse regions in the US, being the Everglades. So I just can't even imagine, like the amazing, the environmental part of me right now is so happy. Anyways, that would be cool. And they also have, I never know how to pronounce it, Iguazu Falls. Basically, it's a gigantic waterfall, and it's really cool, and it is roughly twice as tall as Niagara. Eleanor Roosevelt actually visited there, and she was reported to say something to the effect of, "Oh, poor Niagara," when she saw it, because it's just that gigantic. So yeah, gotta see that. And then the other cool thing about Brazil is it's also known to just have a really outgoing, fun culture, which I feel like could be really awesome, especially as a traveler. I think as a traveler it would be much easier to make friends somewhere like that. And going along with that, they have the Rio Carnival in Rio de Janeiro, which is just like a gigantic party that takes over the city for 6 days. I'm pretty sure that explanation doesn't do it justice, but it sounds pretty awesome. They have the samba parade with a bunch of dancers and like the most colorful, beautiful costumes and amazing music, and that just sounds amazing in so many ways. So Brazil, definitely on the list. The next one, oh, this is a good one. Okay, I want so much to go to the North Pole. And I know a lot of people hear that and they're like, really? Do you really want to go to the top of the world and just sit on some ice for a while? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. I mean, just think about it. It's literally the top of the world. like, how much cooler and more poetic does it get? So, obviously, it's kind of tricky to get there, but there are multiple ways. Mostly you just have to have a ton of money, which, I mean, I'm working on that, but we'll see. Anyways, but the general idea is that you can take a cruise on an icebreaker ship, which is specially designed to, like, plow through the ice, and it'll get you pretty close to, like, the top latitude mark, and then you can go and stand there and, like, take pictures and be like, hey man, top of the world. So you can do that, or you can helicopter in, which I think would be a really cool way to do it, because you get to see all the scenery and everything. Or they actually do have expeditions if you're, like, up for some craziness, to go overland, like, cross-country skiing for part of the way. Which personally, if I was gonna do it, if I was able to, that would be my preferred way, just to be so close to the land and everything. So anyways, it's not like your huge metropolitan tourist attraction kind of area, but the main reason I think it would be cool is just because I feel like it would be such a raw experience, you know, to literally be on the top of the world, somewhere that's so isolated, you know, like so far removed from civilization. And I've just got to imagine the type of perspective that would give a person to be up there, surrounded by ice and mountains and ocean, and just, you know, like, understand our place in the larger world. It seems pretty mystical and pretty amazing, so that's definitely an experience that I think would be pretty awesome and worth going for. Alright, the next one. I want to go to Lebanon. And that's another one that gets some eyebrow raises, but it just, there are multiple reasons. One of the reasons is that the Middle East is somewhere we hear a lot about for various reasons, and so places that you hear a lot about, it makes me curious to see what it's like in person, you know, like to go there and to be there, and just see what I think about it, you know, like what my personal perspective is on it. And I would like to see what it's like in person. But beyond that, also, just that whole area has, like, a huge amount of history, and speaking as a certified history nerd, it would be absolutely amazing, especially in Lebanon. They have the city of Beirut, which has been a part of the Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, the Ottoman Empire, like, the three largest civilizations in that area that have shaped, like, almost everything else in that region. Not to mention being, like, in the middle of the Silk Roads, like the nexus between ancient civilizations. So they have all sorts of, like, ruins and mosaics and art and just, like, yeah. I mean, I could just walk around the city and, like, take it all in. That's absolutely amazing. And I feel like that's one thing that's worth being a little bit more cautious about and being slightly uncomfortable to go see, because it's, like, our human history, you know, that's one of the most influential places in the world as far as history goes. And with that, there's also the ruins of Baalbek, which was a Roman village, city kind of place, and they have, what's it called? Well, it's like the Temple of Jupiter. So that would be fascinating to see, because especially living in America, you don't just stumble upon ruins every single day. So that's, you know, it's worth the trip. I would love to see that. Plus, just the beauty of, like, the Mediterranean Sea and the arid climate. It would be a really interesting place to go. Next place, China. And China isn't as wild as, say, like, the North Pole or somewhere like that, but it's definitely very interesting, and it has a few key places that I've wanted to go for a very long time. The first one would be Potala Palace. I'm always paranoid I'm saying that wrong, but either way, you'll get my meaning. Potala Palace. It's above the city of Lhasa, which was Tibetan until circa 1959, and that was actually where the Dalai Lama lived, who's, like, the Tibetan leader, religious but also semi-political Buddhist leader. and I just think that would be a really amazing place. One, just the architecture of it, it's absolutely beautiful and I've never seen another building like it. Two, it's like up in the Himalayas, like way up in the mountains, so it's incredibly alpine and gorgeous and just like this stark landscape. But also the religious symbolism, I guess, of it is very interesting because it's a place that pilgrims still come to all the time. They consider it's sort of like the nexus of the Tibetan Buddhist culture in that region. So I feel like that would be a very interesting place to go, and that's something I've been curious about for a long time. So yeah, I would definitely enjoy doing that in China. There's also the Li River, which is like, I'm sure almost everyone has seen these pictures of the very iconic imagery in China of the river and then those huge mountains that just go up and down, you know, like the giant lumps that just come out of the ground. And you see like the bamboo boats flowing along and the rice paddies and all that kind of stuff. Well, that is the Li River right there. And it looks like a really, really interesting place to explore. They have all sorts of river cruises with like the nice boats or the more traditional bamboo boats, and you can go and look at all the wildlife, see the river, but there's also a lot of hiking in that area, which I would definitely be interested in. It looks like a tricky place to hike if you want to go anywhere vertical because those mountains are like straight up. But I imagine it would be worth it because it's absolutely gorgeous. Alright, my fifth and final place is Scotland. And this is, it could be considered the least wild of all of them, but for me personally it's kind of a wild one because it's not a place I've thought about until recently, and then I've just become like fascinated with it. Especially the Scottish Highlands, that's the main one. Because, well, one, the weather is absolutely crazy, which would be interesting to try to deal with because it's always apparently like raining and storming and cloudy, which there's only so long that I can handle that. I need the sun, but it would definitely make things interesting. But the Scottish Highlands are like very open. There's large mountains and that kind of thing. It's very like, what's the word? It's very raw, I guess would be the word. And it strikes me as being very mystical too, like just the emerald green of the mountains and the fields and then the blue sky or cloudy sky depending on the day. It's absolutely breathtaking. So definitely as a hiker, that's a place I would be interested in just exploring anywhere I can go. There's also an area near there which is very interesting, the Isle of Skye, which is a fantastic name, if I may say so myself. But it has various like castles and stuff like that. The castle of Clan MacDonald and Clan MacLeod, which would be really, really cool. I would love to see that because there's all sorts of interesting historical stuff that went on there, like with the Jacobites and all that, so that would be amazing. But also the Isle of Skye has, what is it? It's Cuillien Range, which has 12 peaks over 3,000 feet, which really surprised me because I never thought of Scotland as being like this huge like mountainous region, but apparently it is. And it's, that range, Cuillien Range, is considered one of the most challenging ranges in the UK to climb and traverse. So that would be really, really cool. I mean, like a great adventure to just go up there and climb and see what happens. So yeah, and then of course there's the city of Edinburgh and all the history there and the architecture and plenty of castles and ruins and all that kind of stuff. So Scotland is definitely somewhere I would be interested in going, and I think it definitely deserves the title of wild, especially the Highlands. So yeah, those are my 5 wild places to visit. Hopefully at some point I'll get there and maybe, you know, on down the road I'll be making a video about that for you. But if you enjoyed it, be sure to like, subscribe, add a comment, and tell me in the comments what are your 5 wildest places to visit and why. I'd love to hear what you have to say. So, see you later.